Hopefully, y'all cannot hear me eating, because that would be crazy, actually. Oopsie. Oh my gosh. When trying to be healthy goes wrong. I'm gonna just start talking in like 3 minutes, even if there's nobody up in here. Oh my gosh, come on. Oh my gosh. Get there. Girl. That was disgusting. Oh Lord, I can't even type. The heck is this? Oh, I said 2010, like that's not in a minute, but whatever. Dehydrated. Me too. I need a ew. I wasn't digging up my nose. I swear. That was gross. Ooh. Okay. What was I saying? Tips before the exam. Advice for test prep slash studying. One. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna start talking, even if there's nobody here, because whatever. It'll go up in post like a regular upload anyway. So my first tip for preparing for exams, particularly NBME style exams that you'll take in medical school, is to know how long it takes you to study and don't lie about it. Don't lie to yourself about it. If you know that you have like, I don't know, let's say 5 PowerPoints and it takes you 2 days to get through one PowerPoint, then take the 2 days and get through the one PowerPoint. Don't try to like cram it all together because I used to do that. Well, I used to be able to do that in undergrad, like cram however much information into maybe 3 days worth of studying. But medical school, graduate school, period, I think because of the volume and the rate of the material, you need to start studying early. Do not delay that. And if you know that your study method and study style, which I have another live that talks about that, if you know that your study method and style is time consuming, take that into account as well. I'm a person that likes to transcribe their notes into outlines. So whatever I read, if it's a PowerPoint, a lecture, or whatever, I will turn that into an outline for me to study from and or teach other people from. So that takes a long time. And I know it doesn't seem like, oh, you're going to have time to do all of that, but you do. You just got to start early. You might have to start ahead. You might have to be ahead of the pace of the class in order to be ready for the midterm or the exam or whatever that you're taking, the midterm or the exam, the midterm or the final. So, yeah, have a real and true estimate of how long it takes you to study. Second, I would say, hmm, okay. Sorry, y'all. I have to eat because if I don't eat, I'm gonna pass out. And I forgot to get a lactate. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So then the second tip, I'm all up smacking and leaning in the camera. Don't study in a group at first. I don't care what anybody says. When you study in groups, y'all don't actually be studying. You don't. You yapping, you talking, you laughing. You're doing everything but study. So I wouldn't start off that way unless you know that you're a person that can like blot out a lot of distractions. I'm not. I get easily distracted. Woo, easily distracted and dehydrated. So, yeah, I feel like every time that I attempted to study with people, I was less efficient in the material that I was learning. Additionally, sometimes when you try to study with your peers, even though they don't intend to, they can they can kind of make you feel bad about yourself, especially if they don't really have social awareness. I don't know what else you would call it other than social awareness. I remember one time I was like failing one of the blocks, one of the organ systems. Thank God I ended up passing, but I was going through such a tough time. And here go one of my former associates say something. Yeah, this material is really easy. I was expecting it to be a lot harder than this as I was struggling and dang near about to fail. So I definitely just wouldn't recommend because you also don't know how other people's learning styles will impact yours or influence yours. So if you know that there's something that works for you, but you're not too sure about it yet, I think you can be tempted to try other people's study styles, which again prolongs your own learning. So I'm not a fan of group studying until I'm more confident that I know the material. So that way, if I do get distracted or I am trying to pick up a new study method or something, it's not really that big of a deal because I already learned what I needed to learn. So that's that. Ouch. This tattoo is hurting me. Three, let's say, I think I would say go through the from your instructor first. Okay, so the third thing is going through the material that your instructors actually give you, even if it's an NBME or standardized type of assessment. At the end of the day, the instructors are the people who are picking the questions. So you want to look to see what kind of things they emphasize in the PowerPoint. So that way you get an idea of what will be more highlighted on the exam because it might not always be representative of what's in first aid. And that was something that used to irritate me, especially if you have in-house exams as a midterm and then your final exam is an NBME, because it can feel like you're studying a bunch of like, how do you call that? Minuscule? Minuscule isn't the word that I wanted to use. Obscure, there we go. Obscure information that doesn't seem that relevant to the system or to the topic. And that can be very, very frustrating. But you still just want to make sure that you cover your bases and that you kind of get an idea of what your instructors want you to learn and not what you think is important because, well, you didn't write the exam. Mm, no, see. Mm. I actually think that's it for studying for the assessment. Hmm. Yeah, so now we can get into Ooh. Y'all, how do you spell strategies? There we go. can I just can I like it myself? Oh, it's just adorable. I'm liking my own live. Anyway, Hey y'all. I kind of already started with the topics. You can look in the chat to see what all I put. So that way, if you have questions about any of what I said so far, you can just ask me while I'm talking. Um, but I was going to say that for test day strategies, the number one thing is please read the last line of the questions. And I'm sure that you've heard this before, but I'm so serious. Sometimes you will read the last line of a question and realize that you don't even need to read the rest of the question. I still recommend that you do, just to cover your bases, but you get an idea of what stuff in the question stem is irrelevant to the actual question in order to get it correct. And it saves you a lot of time. I think that's especially important if you are somebody that suffers from ADHD or some other type of learning condition, because I can get caught up on the details. I can get really caught up in the weeds of a question and then, as I said, lose precious testing time. I remember once I was the very last person to leave the room. And I was so embarrassed, even though you shouldn't be, because take your time, it's your assessment, it's your score. But still, I was just like, dang. And it would happen pretty frequently that I would be one of the last people, if not the last person. And I know that it was because it was taking me forever to read those questions. So please read the last line. Um, what's another thing that I would say on test day strategies? Don't don't answer the question if you don't know it. If you don't know it. Like if you're reading a question and you're like, yeah, baby, I don't know what the hell that's talking about, don't even answer it. Go ahead and flag it and move on. Because what will happen is that you'll try to like conjure up the notes and be like, I swear this was on XYZ slide, XYZ PowerPoint. Wasting time. Wasting time. Because at the end of the day, if you're that confused and you just cannot for the life of you even get a good hunch of what the answer might be, you don't know it. You don't know it well enough. Take the L, move on. Just count it as a part of your incorrects and then count it as like a stroke of luck if you guess it when you come back. But don't waste your time trying to answer a question that you know good and well that you did not study enough and or you just don't understand. Just let it go. Know when to wave the white flag of defeat. Um, three, on test day, I'm really trying to think about like how I was taking these exams in-house and or NBME as well as step one. What is something else? Hmm. Don't I would say don't get caught up in the details. Caught up in the details of answer choices. Um, at the end of the day, when you read an answer choice, you should be able to say, this is what that's talking about. And if you have to keep staring at it, it's along the same lines of don't answer it if you don't know it, but also don't try to come up with what you think an answer choice is. Like, don't do that to yourself. If it sounds kind of sort of familiar, just leave it alone. Like just leave it alone. And I am emphasizing more so the timing of the exams because the timing is really what gets you. I promise it's less likely that it's actually you don't know the material and it's more like you're going to bog yourself down and not give yourself the best means of actually getting that question right, such as circling back to it at the end with a fresh pair of eyes. You're dwindling your ability to do that the longer that you hesitate during the actual assessment. So that would be my third thing. Don't get caught up in the answer choices. um Let me see what else. How else have I felt taking an exam? Oh, ignore fluff information. So this relates to reading the last line of the question, but also don't go reading unnecessary information. Like if it's a picture that's next to the question and you actually don't need the picture to answer it, don't try to analyze the picture. The amount of times that I would run into an EKG and I knew good and well that I didn't know anything about EKGs. And yet I would still at one point try my best to read them. And for what? If for what? If I don't actually need it in order to answer the question, even if you feel like it would be helpful, if it is not 100% necessary, my recommendation is to not even bother. Because again, it's the same thing of you will lose precious time while testing and you just don't want to do that to yourself. So yeah, I would just say don't bother with that extra information if you don't actually need it. So let's say, for example, you have a gut feeling that this question is talking about chronic myeloid leukemia. CML? Does CML have what I'm thinking of? Or am I thinking of AML? You're looking at, you're thinking it's AML and you see a picture of our rods, but you're not 100% sure that those are our rods. Or you're looking at something and you don't know if that's owl eyes, or you don't know if it's like the, what is it? It's like owl eyes versus perinuclear or halo inclusions in CMV. You still don't know the difference between the two. Reed Sternberg cells. Is that what it is? Reed Sternberg cells versus something else. I'm blanking right now because there's another name for the other ones. Anyway, I think it's Reed Sternberg versus CMV inclusions. If you still can't tell the difference between the two, don't look at that picture. Don't look at that picture. Try to answer it with the question stem. Starting dedicated soon. This is going to help me tremendously. I hope so. I'm hoping that I'm dropping real good gems because these are honestly the mistakes that I made. I'm not just talking like, oh, I did so great and wonderful. No, I was making errors, erroneous things that I was doing and making my studying way harder than it had to be, as well as my testing way harder than it had to be. Because when I really look back at all the assessments that I didn't really do that great on, including step one, it really was due to my study habits and to the way that I was approaching the test. Once I figured out how to approach the test with confidence to where I genuinely felt like, hey, I gave it my best. Like there is nothing else that I could have done to actually do better. Once I got to that level of confidence, I started doing way better. So please, it is a 90% mental game. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in the confusions, in the delusions. Because the other thing that I'll say is, what's the next tip? Yes. Oh, not me not being able to type, y'all. So 5, yes. These answer choices will look similar, and you might see them again. Oh, so I know I can spell. There we go. This actually freaked me out the very first time that I saw this, especially preparing for step one, especially on step one. Legally, I think that I'm allowed to say that. If not, y'all didn't hear it from me. But sometimes you'll see a question and then you'll go to the next like section and you'll see the question again. It'll be the same exact question, just worded a little bit different. And or you'll see answer choices that you just saw. It's like a completely different question, same set of answer choices. Don't freak out. I swear they do that on purpose. And I always used to think, so you're telling me if I got it wrong the first time, I could get it wrong again? And then that would paralyze me in fear. But don't. Look at it as an opportunity that if you were stuck between two answer choices the first time you saw it, now you get a chance of redemption. So look at it that way. How did you review your UWorld questions? I find myself spending too much time reviewing it. I really need to make a video on what I did differently between my first attempt and my second attempt of step one. Because baby, I didn't worry about no UWorld. I didn't. I only did UWorlds for very weak material as well as to reinforce my learning. I know that a lot of people will tell you to do random and then just study that way, but I found that to be a waste of time because it would be like I'd get a question wrong, and then because I haven't gone over that material, where does this information go? Where does this information? Why do I randomly know about a heart murmur and I am in the GI tract? When am I supposed to revisit these heart murmurs? So I personally don't think that I approach UWorld the same way that everybody else did. So I think my reviews were a lot faster because of that. Because again, I was mainly reinforcing my learning. So I barely had any incorrects. And I personally never reviewed questions that I felt very confident on. And again, to each their own. I know that some people say, oh, you want to look at all of the answer choices and you take your time and go slow because you can see topics of things that you'll see again. But because I'm such a comprehensive what do you call those? What do you call that studying that's in the beginning before application? I guess just content review. Because my content review is so thorough, I never really worried that I wasn't gonna see something. And yeah, it just made my reviews way faster. So I think if you do it the traditional way where you're doing randomized, you're going to have no choice because you're probably going to have a bunch of incorrects because it's material that you haven't seen. So I don't think that there's a way to circumvent how long the review takes unless you approach UWorld itself differently. So I don't know if that helps. I'm sorry, I had such an unconventional approach to it. Um, and honestly, thank you for asking that, Maureen. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, because I would say something else that I think is helpful that should have went in the preparation section would be knowing what tools do and don't work for you, and then not listening to other people when they tell you that you should use it in one way. Like, these people aren't in your brain. Okay? What works for Tom is not going to work for Jerry. What works for Jerry is not going to work for Jack. So you want to make sure that you're using the resources how your brain does it best. I promise y'all, my score skyrocketed the minute that I stopped studying the way that everybody else was telling me to. I went from low 60s, like 61. I think my highest was a 64 when I was studying, doing the randomized U World and all these other recommended pacing strategies. The minute that I started studying my way, I was getting 74s and 75s. All of my U World percentages, I think the lowest percentage that I would get would be a 75. My highest would be like an 86. So, I personally don't recommend using resources the way that other people say. Use it the way that you like it. How much anatomy, CTs, and cross sections were on step one? I would say in terms of anatomy, it was actually primarily GI. GI has a lot of sneaky anatomy, is what I would call it, where it's asking about if you clip a certain section, blood supply, lots of blood supply kind of questions. In terms of neuro, there was a lot of derivatives. So what does this become and turn into kind of questions. I don't think CTs, like in terms of scans, actual medical scans, I didn't come across that many that weren't crazy obvious. I would say that the high yield images deck probably for me was the most useful because it really is like stuff you've seen before. You should know what a pneumothorax looks like. You should know what um like polycystic kidney disease. You should know what that looks like. You should have a general orientation of the anatomy of the GI system, typically from a, what is this section called? A transverse cut. You should know that. Otherwise, I didn't find that there was a crazy amount. It was a lot of stereotypical images, maybe a couple of one-off images. I would say like random GI images, so porcelain bladder, bamboo spine. Oh my goodness, the bamboo spine. Please know what that looks like. Um, I would say honestly, anything that has a lot of good cross section kind of learning to it. So, for example, with bamboo spine, you could get that image, and then that's related to steroids. That's related to autoimmune disease. That could be related to what is it like the B27 disorders, the what is it spondylolithiasis. So things that have like multiple organ systems kind of layering around that one concept. Pay attention to those. Pay attention. Don't say I didn't tell you. Pay attention to those. Um, yeah. And yeah, personally, I will also say in terms of your learning and studying and like preparing on exam day, because a lot of these concepts have a lot of cross layering, please know what organ system they are asking you about. That sounds ridiculous, but I'm so serious. Like, pay attention to, is this a pharmacy question? Is this a pathology question? Is this a management question? Because there are a couple of management questions on there, which is crazy, but there are a couple of management questions on step one. And I think that that's relevant even still for NBMEs. Even if your school does go by organ system like mine did, I still think it's relevant because, again, you can have all of these foundational approaches to the same concept. Is it a micro approach? Is it, infectious disease? So I think that that is why I personally like outline learning, because I can organize the information into where it needs to be in order to better integrate it into my head. So yeah, I'm trying to think of other actual test day things. Mm, I mean, this is maybe a little corny, but oh well. I think this is the most important one, corny or not. Have confidence throughout the exam. If you find yourself getting tired, you on section, I don't know, like let's say, yes, let's say, because I used to have exams that were like 85 questions long. And that would drive me crazy because how am I supposed to answer 85 questions in like an hour? Um, but once you start feeling that fatigue, because trust and believe, you're gonna feel it midway through the exam, whatever exam that you're taking, you're gonna hit a spot where you're like, I'm just ready to get this over with. You have to be able to motivate yourself internally to not just select some BS. And don't even play that game where you count the number of incorrects that you think that you have, because you can severely over or underestimate that number. Things that you feel so confident on, you could potentially have gotten those wrong. So don't get into the mode of I just want to be done and I'm just going to do whatever. Don't do that. Do some box breathing. Do like this to your temples. Like do whatever you need to do to just continue to pump yourself up to get through. Because yeah, I would say the first time that I did not pass that one, I could feel when I gave up. I want to say that I was on maybe section 4 out of 7. I was ready to go home. I didn't care. I didn't care anymore. I wanted to go home. I was tired. I was irritated. I wasn't taking Adderall yet. So I would say noticing your mental and emotional well-being, including while you're studying too. Like if you notice while you're studying that you're actually not absorbing any of the information anymore, it's giving womp, 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 womp. Hang it up. Close your laptop. Close your laptop, flip, do the iPad, yep, and get up out of there, because you're wasting your own time. I promise you, you're not intaking any of this information. You're not. Like in podcast too. If you know that you're not actually actively listening to a podcast, don't think don't think that that's how that works, where you can just play it in the background and you're suddenly going to remember it on test day. No, you're not. I do that a lot. How long did it take you to study approximately for each block? My school is giving us a deadline to take the test, and I will have 2 months to study. Is this for step one? Because if so, y'all know that I took extended, super extended time. But when I locked down and really like focused in, 2 months would have been enough time. 2 months would have been enough time had I had the right mindset and had I had the right approach. And I didn't review every single organ system either. I only went over my weakest areas, which were and cardio and GI. And then I went over neuro just because I knew that it was high yield. Everything else, everything else, it was kind of like, how did I study that? I mean, I used the Melman PDFs regardless, but I definitely didn't spend like a crazy amount of time in content review once I actually locked in and focused. I would say that I did like 2 weeks of focus studying, and then I took my NBME practice NBME week number 3. I got a 74. I scheduled my step 1 retake the next week. So that was 4 weeks of studying, 2 weeks of focus, 1 week where I actually took the NBME and reviewed it, and that was the only NBME I took. And I got up out of there. I did not want to be in dedicated for any longer than that. So I would say 2 months is more than enough time if you know how to approach it. However, comma, if you feel like you are rushing yourself, and again, you're not reaching that point of I have done everything that I can and it is what it is on the day of the exam, don't take that test. Hear it from your big sister or little sister. I don't know how old y'all are. Hear it from your family member. Don't do it. Y'all didn't see that. Mm, and I do want to talk about like post exam health, post exam rituals. I don't know what you would call these. Let's see. Mm-mm-mm. Stress strategies. Okay. So this section, in my opinion, is the most important section for your mental health to protect your peace. It doesn't matter what type of exam you're taking. In-house exam, undergrad exam, NBME, step one. I think that these are laws that everybody needs to live by. Do not talk to people. Talk to people afterwards. Okay? Number one, these people can potentially exacerbate your worst fears. These people may ask you questions, especially if it's step one. There are people going to, oh, how was it? How do you think it went? Yeah, they might even give you anecdotal experiences or like thinking that they're helping you. But in general, all they're making you do is think about how you just left an 8-hour exam and your body is still in fight or flight mode. Like, trust and believe, you just went through war, academic and mental war. If it's an NBME, same thing. You really just sat there in front of a computer screen and locked in with like no movement, no nothing, which I'm sure you don't even do when you're studying. Well, maybe some people do. But I be getting up, I be drinking water, I start playing music. You know what I mean? I'm doing stuff that I'm not necessarily doing on test day. And so your brain is in a different type of setting. And now you're trying to talk and you're reactivating that setting of stress that you just left. Don't do that to yourself. Also, sometimes people just don't have good social cues. I swear the amount of times, like I was saying before, well, there was somebody in here when I was saying it, when I suggested not studying in a group at first, it's because people just say anything and they might not necessarily mean you any harm. It doesn't mean that harm is not being done onto you. So they may say something like, oh, that exam was easier than I thought. That exam wasn't even that bad. Or they'll over express it. Oh my gosh, it was so difficult. It was so hard. And then you come back and they got a 95. They got a 95 and you got a 72. You may not care because you passed, but trust and believe those types of encounters kind of accumulate and build stress. Like just me talking about it, it's causing me stress. It's causing my neck to hurt. So I just wouldn't recommend that. And for what? Like you're gonna talk about it and then you're gonna talk about all the questions that you think that you got wrong. How is that helpful? Somebody put into the chat. Let me know how that is helpful for you and your mental health to discuss what you potentially got wrong. What's that little Cardi B meme? Let me know how that's helpful. So I would not recommend talking to people afterwards unless you're talking about something that's like not academic related. You talking about the bath you're about to take when you get home, what you're going to eat for dinner. We'll show you about the watch. If you're going to talk about something that's not the stress that you just left, sure. But I know that that's not what you're doing. I know that you're going to go discuss and compare answers. Don't do it to yourself. So I would say that. Number two, post exam things. Don't try to remember what you got wrong. Don't try to remember what you got wrong. Your memory is not that good. I'm so sorry to tell you, you are not a savant. Like you're not going to remember what exactly that question said. So you are freaking yourself out for no reason. That question could have said anything, and you're remembering it completely different. Don't even do that to yourself. Like I'm getting exhausted because the amount of times that I did this, where I would really try to conjure up what I thought that I saw on the exam and convince myself that I failed. It's ridiculous. The self-induced stress is just ridiculous when it comes to these tests. Um, what's something else? Number three, turn off your phone. Turn off your phone for results day. Okay, this is for step one, NBME, in-house, any exam where the results come later, just turn off your phone when it's supposed to come out. Because again, one, you can have very just low social awareness people around you and they're texting you, I'm sure you did fine because I got 103%. Like, how the hell did you even get 103%? But I swear, just don't even bother with the external influences come test result day. Don't get on Reddit. Jesus, don't get on Reddit. Don't get on Doctor Network. Just don't go and look up stuff and again induce unnecessary stress. Just turn off your phone. And honestly, turn off the phone and then check on your laptop, right? To where unless you get text messages to your laptop, turn those off too. But just find a way to not have external influence around you while you're opening up your results. because again, you want to be able to get into this rhythm and flow of whatever happened, I did my best and that's okay. I am a firm believer that had that been my mindset and my attitude for my preclinical, it would not have been as painful as it was. And same thing, having that mindset instilled early prior to my actual licensure testing, it would have done me wonders. But shoulda, coulda, woulda, I'll be able to apply them for step two. And as I get ready for the clinic, so I learned the hard way, I guess, and I hope that y'all don't have to learn the hard way, which is why I'm doing these kinds of lives. So yes, turn off your phone for the results day. And then like the last thing, go celebrate no matter the results. I think that this is so important just to condition your brain, kind of same thing as I was saying about turning off your phone. Condition your brain to celebrate that you even tried. I think that that is such an overlooked kind of resilience. I think that people, including myself, we can tend to look at resilience as just stubborn forward movement, when sometimes resilience is stillness and being able to sit and go, I did a good job regardless of what the exam result is so important, because the amount of time that I spent just beating myself up anytime that I didn't get a result that I wanted, especially coming off of a high academic title, right? I graduated at the top of my class. I had a 4.0 GPA. And so I went into med school kind of with this very heavy backpack of expectations for my academic ability, even though I have never been to med school. I don't know anybody in med school. At that time, I didn't know anybody. I don't have any doctors in my family, right? I'm from an entirely different background than most of my peers, not using that as an excuse or as a crutch, but as a reality. I don't get to go home and talk to my surgeon dad and be like, hey, what do you think about this question? I don't get to go and use my parents' money to buy whatever tools and resources that I need. So I need my time to go, good job, like good job, we did it. In my Dora the Explorer voice, we did it, we did it. I don't know the rest of the lyrics, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And I think that that is super important. Above all else, is to really just, as I said, stay motivated. Stay motivated, stay good to yourself, treat yourself kindly. Because I promise y'all, the people in this field, they're not gonna treat you kindly. If you're not gonna give it to yourself, where you gonna get it? Where you gonna get it from? Who's gonna give it to you? The attendings who don't even know your name, hmm? The residents who might like throw you to the wolves because they have their own stress going on. That's what's gonna give it to you. Your instructors who probably don't even know your name. If your class is big enough, I know my instructors don't know. Well, maybe now they do because I be beefing with them. But beforehand, they didn't know. So you have to be Ohana for yourself. Number one support system. Y'all like my finger tattoos, by the way? Are they dope? I have to get I'm not trying to flick y'all off. Wait. I have to get this one fixed. But I think she's so cute. And then I have this one too. I love simple cutesy tattoos. Sorry, I got distracted because I was looking at my ink. Um that was it though for the topic. I didn't have anything else to add. I think it's relatively straightforward, but I thought that it could still be helpful because, again, I know that people are studying for different types of assessments, midterms for undergrad. I think I haven't been in undergrad in like 7 years. Jesus. But I think it's midterm season. I know that people are preparing for dedicated. They're getting ready to potentially take like their initial step one assessment. I forget what they're called, initial evaluations. I know some people are there. There are some people who are just still in a prolonged dedicated. Nothing wrong with that. I have a friend that's retaking step right now. Shout out to the people who are doing that. Um, so yeah, they are beautiful. Thanks for all the advice. Yes, I'm glad that I can help in any way that I can. Again, I think that like obviously I didn't want to make as many errors as I did, but I am happy that I was able to get through them, right? These errors were not things that totally deterred me from medicine, or I got like kicked out of school or anything crazy like that. I genuinely just had an issue with pacing, timing, and understanding myself. So I'm really glad that I can kind of impart this kind of information. It's not something that's super technical, and I think that that's good so that way anybody can apply it. I think that sometimes when you have super technical advice, let's say even for studying methods and studying techniques, that may not be as applicable to everybody, but I think that everybody could congratulate themselves. Everybody can, not take it hard on themselves, tell themselves good job for small things, take their time when it comes to their learning pace. So I think that more general advice can hopefully reach a broader audience. And, again, you can actually try some of the things that I'm saying. And yeah, I don't really have anything else. So feel free to, drop on off. Go ahead, just put like a good night to let me know that you're leaving. Cause then I'll just like close out the live if nobody has any questions. Hopefully y'all cannot hear me like smacking on the live because I was talking to myself for like a good 10 minutes before anybody came. So I apologize in advance if on the playback all you hear is because this was good. It was a tuna Caesar salad and it was busting. Which year did I find more difficult, M1 or M2? Good night, Maureen. Um, I would say that I had more difficulty in my M1 year only because you're learning everything for the first time. Like you're just getting accustomed to all of the things that you need to do. And I will also say, in hindsight, M1 year, I did not take advantage of all of the learning opportunities in terms of understanding myself the way that I should. Because you can get really caught up in M1 year. You're trying to do everything. You're probably joining a club, then you're trying to learn how to study and stay on top of things. You just don't know what you're doing in your first year. And for me, my first year was yeah, a whole year long, and then my second year was only 6 months long. So I think I can't really have a genuine comparison because my second year was such a short block, and it was primarily composed of getting us ready for step one. So I would definitely say M1 year, especially just not taking advantage of it the way that I should. But it's all right. We'll see how M3 goes. I'll let y'all know how I'm feeling in the clinic. I hope that I can stay consistent and record to show y'all like how I'm studying for my shelf exams, to show y'all the like how I'm doing with getting pimped on. I actually really dislike that is the terminology, but I that's neither here nor there. But to tell y'all how I'm handling that, how I'm handling the questions being thrown at me, how I'm handling each rotation, how I'm liking each rotation, especially because the specialty that I want to go into, I don't have an actual block to rotate through. I'm so sad about that because PM&R is not offered as even an elective, I don't think anymore. So that kind of sucks. And then yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all the approach of, oh, tell people the specialty that you're interested in versus not. I personally plan on telling people from day one the specialty that I plan to go into because I want to understand from other specialties how one, their understanding of what my future job or my desired job is, because I would like to see how the healthcare team actually runs and functions, as well as the things that they wish the people within my specialty could do better, or that like they would like to know more of, just in terms of bridging that gap. So I'll let y'all know how that approach works. I think that it will be beneficial so long as I communicate it well and I let it be known that I am still interested in understanding the specialty, even if I'm not planning to practice in it, just as an involved and aware team member. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to sharing what those lessons are going to be like. Yeah, starting in March. Oh my gosh, it's getting closer and closer. We're already in the end of October, dang near. Jeez. There is no cute way for me to eat on camera, but bro, I'm hungry. Mhm. Mm. So yeah, just putting into the chat if there are no other questions. I'm gonna close this off in like the next 5 minutes or so. So a little before 9. So that way I can take down all my equipment, y'all. Where's my phone? I wanted to show y'all my streaming setup. Um, Thank you so much for joining the live. I love when I see names that I always see like in my comments or, just frequent visitors and people who engage with my page. So thank you. Definitely have a good night as well. And I hope that this was helpful in some way. It looks like people are just slowly leaving. My poor neck. Okay. All right. I think. Oopsie. I did not mean to do that. Let me just put a good night. Oh my gosh, why can't I type? All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. I think it's a good time anyway because my camera is starting to overheat, probably from the light. I hope that y'all can go back and take a look at all of the different segments of the advice that I gave pre-test, test day, and post exam. I'm going to include the timestamps on the recap so that way you guys can see it as well. And yeah, I hope that this is an upload that will remain relevant for people to come back to. And I hope to catch y'all in the next live. Night night.